Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Let's Talk Fantasy Football. I'm your host, Nick Walsh. I am here tonight with my good friend, the DON, Don Crispin. Don, what's up?
Walsh, how you doing, buddy?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good. Ready for the Week 11 action. Week 10 was pretty good to me, so I was pretty happy with that. But yeah, so if you weren't aware, that's what we're gonna do tonight. We're gonna break down Week 11. We may get a cameo from our good friend Matt Rogers as well. We'll see. He was supposed to be in on this. He had some issues where he couldn't make it for the start. He may make it for some of it. I'm sure he'll provide some great analysis if he does. And if he doesn't, Don and I will try to do the best that we possibly can, which is like average at best, I'd say. But, what can you do?
Beware of the Wandcast 2.0.
That's true. We're actually in our major league that the five of us play, and Don and I are actually doing very well. We're in first and third, I believe, right? You're in third now after this week?
Yeah, that's right. I'm there now.
Yeah. So based on those results, you're listening to the best possible podcast combination that you could get, but we'll see if that holds up, and who knows if that's actually accurate. But anyway, I guess we'll go ahead and get into these matchups because I don't really have much else to say unless you got something to add, Don. Do you?
Well, if you want to win, you put Don and Walsh in.
That's true. That's both a rhyme and extremely true. So there you have it. All right. So Week 11, we got 4 buys back down to the 4 bye weeks. We've had a couple 6 bye weeks, which are always difficult to deal with. But we've got the Browns, the Saints, the Giants, and the Steelers. Those are some pretty significant teams that we've got out. Are you going to be affected heavily with that, Don?
I'm affected heavily. I've got Cooks and Watson, and then I've got OBJ in one, and I'm sure a lot of people, especially in the lower half of their leagues, are depending heavily on a D'Angelo Williams or whatever else it may be. So that's a lot of players that you're looking at. I mean, Cleveland is whatever, but besides maybe Barnage, but that's still a lot of players. You're looking at a lot of Steelers players that a lot of people are playing. You got OBJ and the Giants, and you got a lot of Saints players that are very relevant. So it's a big deal.
Yeah, definitely. It's not anything to scoff at, I don't think. So we're gonna try and get you guys the some lower tier or like under the radar replacements that you could play, that sort of thing, just for this week. And well, let's get into it. We'll start with the Thursday night games. We have Tennessee at Jacksonville. Jacksonville has been like unbelievably surpassing our expectations this year. So what do you think about them this week against Tennessee, Don?
Yeah, I mean, it's been fun to watch Jacksonville.
Yeah, right?
It's crazy. This is a good week, Thursday night football. Play your players for Jacksonville against a pretty bad Tennessee Titans. So it's another week to capitalize on some pretty magical Jacksonville Jaguar play.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of people have been riding the Allen Robinson train and the Allen Hearns train, the Weird Al Yankovic touchdowns, as I guess we've called them in the past. But they both seem to get a touchdown every week, so it makes sense. And you got to keep doing that this week. Tennessee's pass defense is not particularly good, got to keep riding them. Yeldon may or may not be back. If he goes, do you like him? And if he doesn't, are there any running backs that you like as a replacement?
TJ Yeldon, last I saw, he said he was optimistic about playing. I believe he was out of the boot already. It was only for like that one night. I would probably, like, where I have Yeldon, I would play him because I kind of need him, especially with the buys that I'm facing. But you could look elsewhere if you want to stay away from Yeldon. It's a favorable matchup, but again, you got to kind of follow what his injury is first. If you have someone that's on the bench that you can play ahead of him, you can go ahead. I don't know who that would be, especially like if you're someone that had like a D'Angelo Williams that you were looking on using, but he's also sitting down, so it could be questionable. But if TJ Yeldon's playing, I would still play him. I'm going to, but again, it all depends on what your running back staff is and what his injury comes to be. But I think he's going to play, so I'm going to probably roll him.
I think that's fair. If he plays, it's not a bad matchup. He gets usage in the passing game as well. So
Yeah.
that's, obviously a big thing to increase the floor. I'm assuming we're still not on Julius Thomas. Bortles
No.
though, is Bortles a guy you're looking to start this week?
Yeah, I would definitely play Blake Bortles. I mean, he's been a top 10 quarterback all year long, really. I think he's like 9 or 10 right now. So I would definitely play him against Tennessee this week, Thursday night.
Yeah, I think I'm with you on that one. So let's go over to the Tennessee side of the ball. This is a bit interesting because the Jags have a pretty bad pass defense and a very
Yeah,
good run defense.
yeah, they do have a good run
Not that you
defense.
really, yeah, not that you really want to be playing the Titans running backs anyway. David Cobb is now back too, just to throw one more wrench into it.
Mhm.
But Mariota, I know people have relied on him. Maybe if you have Breeze or Eli on the bye this week, do you think he's a viable start?
Yeah, I think this would be a good week if you're looking for someone to plug in that Mariota going against a pretty bad pass defense this week. Is someone that you could plug in on that, especially on this bye week coming up. So Mariota could be a good person to pick up this week.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. So if we like Mariota, obviously Delaney Walker's been, a week in, week out tight end for a lot of people. Are there any other pass catchers there that you're looking at? I know Kendall Wright is supposed to miss again this week.
Not that I know of. I mean, I would go with a safe bet of Delaney Walker, but the rest of the wide receivers are kind of inconsistent. I wouldn't know who would have the good game. I think there's a receiver that could, but I don't know who would be the one that you'd want to choose to throw like that crazy 8 ball out on. But I would kind of just stick to Mariota or Delaney Walker on those two guys.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think if you're desperate, you could roll out DGB. He's been increasing in snap share each week to the point where he's playing almost 70% of snaps now, I think, which is pretty solid. And obviously he's very talented. So if you're going to roll the dice and you're a little desperate, then maybe DGB is the guy, but it's definitely not necessary
Yeah,
to start any of them. So let's pick this one, Don. Who you got?
I like the Jags.
Yeah, me too. I'm going to take the Jags
I've been like
as well.
I've been like just silently pulling for them like every week. Just like
Yeah, yeah, I think I've been doing this. They're a team that's pretty easy to root for.
yeah,
They're kind of fun.
They're
They sling the ball around. It's nice.
fantasy relevant team that's not really ever played very well, so it's kind of fun to watch them play. So
Yeah, definitely. Well, hopefully we watch them get a win tomorrow night then. So let's move on to Washington at Carolina. Washington, of course, had the huge week with Kirk Cousins, which I picked him up in our league. I actually picked him up in a lot of leagues. I, for whatever reason, I forgot to like sub him in our league, which was fine. I still ended up winning. That's okay. But I played him in a couple other leagues. He did great. I played him in some daily fantasy lineups. He was awesome. This doesn't seem like the week to play Kirk Cousins to me. Are you on any of the Redskins here?
no, I mean the only one that I would even debate on playing really is probably Reed. But I mean, other than that, I don't think you're going to see much out of Redskins. I think Carolina's going to just keep steamrolling through everyone. Their defense is pretty stout, so I wouldn't really go out for anyone else at the moment or play Kirk Cousins. No, keep him on the bench.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. None of their running backs exceeded 40% of snaps last week either. So despite the fact that both Alf and Matt Jones both had pretty decent games, they have very low floors just because they're not getting the playing time. Like you said, I think Reed's an every week tight end at this point. He gets a ton of red zone looks. And I know he only had like 4 targets this week, but for the most part, he's pretty solid. And then the only other guy that I was thinking about there is Jamison Crowder, just because the Panthers, if you're going to attack them in the pass game, it's on the inside, it's not on the outside. Maybe he gets like a couple slot looks, but like thinking about it, I'd rather start DGB if I'm desperate than Jamison Crowder this week.
I definitely agree on that. I think because DGB just has a better matchup, but Crowder is actually someone that I really like a lot. Actually, this is someone I was kind of looking at like in probably after like week 4. I think in our league, Blake actually picked him up off the buys, but other than him being obviously from Duke, what I like about is if you look at like his stats, he's actually gets good yardage every week. Once you look down from week 3 on, if you plug in a touchdown each week, he's like well over double digits every week. So he's someone that like is very silent, especially if you're looking to pick up someone for the waiver and maybe for later on. If you're hurting a wide receiver, I think Jameson Crowder is kind of like a sneaky guy that you can pick up and play. I played him this week in like DFS and in one of my other leagues that I was hurting, and it actually worked out really nicely with that touchdown too.
Yeah, he's one of those guys where you're right. He's been a sneaky like yardage and catches guy all year.
Mhm.
Last week was his first touchdown, and I'm not sure that's a coincidence. Just because one, that offense isn't great, and two, they don't really seem to look to him in the red zone.
Right.
But you're right. There is going to be the occasional week where he gets that touchdown and puts you over the edge. And in PPR leagues, he's put up some very usable weeks over the season.
Yeah,
so.
he's been extremely usable as someone to plug in, especially in a PPR league because of the targets and the yardage that he's getting. Just if he had that touchdown, I mean, he would just be so much more valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. So then over on the Carolina side of the ball, Carolina is normally pretty easy to talk about in terms of fantasy. Cam is a start. I like Jonathan Stewart still this week, despite the fact that he's not really used in the pass game. And then Greg Olsen is a weekly starter. Do you have anything else on them?
No, I don't oppose with that either. Those are your main 3 guys there, and that's the 3 that I would feel comfortable rolling against Washington.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't like any of the wide receivers there particularly. So let's pick this one too. I'm going to take Carolina.
Yeah, you got to go Carolina.
Yeah, dude. I don't know about you, but I'm loving watching Cam this year. He's been insane. Like it's been the most exciting to watch him in any year of his career.
No, absolutely. Cam's the man, and I've stayed away with him the past like 2 years from fantasy because I was such a hardcore Cam fan beforehand. But it's good to see that working out for everyone that has him now. And Cam's a man. I mean, they were talking about him should be in the MVP running, even though his like numbers don't technically fall in line with it. But just the way he's done with that team is just pretty awesome.
Yeah, definitely. So let's move on to Oakland at Detroit. This is awesome because my Raiders are a 1-point favorite on the road, which the Raiders over the past decade have not often been road favorites. So that's pretty cool. Despite the Green Bay kind of struggling against the Detroit defense last week, I still think they're not a good defense. I think you need to start all of your Raiders, and by all of your Raiders, I mean Carr, Latavius Murray, Amari Cooper, and Michael Crabtree. What do you? Yeah, you're.
I was gonna say even Crabtree too. That whole last week was not really of Detroit being good. It's just Green Bay really struggling. So I wouldn't make that. If I was playing any Raiders, I wouldn't be worried about Detroit and their defense right now. That was more of a Packer meltdown.
Yeah, we'll get to the Packers a little bit later. I have some questions for you about them as well, but I think you're dead on there in terms of the Detroit defense still not taking them seriously. Before we get off the Raiders, I want to mention Clive Walford because he's been getting a couple more targets at the tight end position. He's been getting in the end zone. They tend to use him down in that area of the field. He's a very low floor play just because he only sees about 25% of the snaps. I think he only got 3 targets this past week, but he has been getting a lot of touchdowns this year. So maybe if you're desperate at tight end, we know the Detroit defense is not very good. Clive Walford might be a guy to consider as a bye week fill-in.
Yeah, what is he? 3 out of the last 4 he's gotten a touchdown?
Yeah, I believe so.
But very touchdown dependent though, in a sense.
Oh yeah, completely. He's one of those where, occasionally at the tight end position, you just have to throw in a guy and hope he scores a touchdown. So maybe this is one of those weeks.
Very Kyle Rudolph like.
Yeah, the guys I always think about are Kyle Rudolph and Richard Rodgers, are the 2 guys who it's just like, maybe they'll get a touchdown, might as well. Yeah, but exactly. But yeah, so Walford's one of those. On the Detroit side of the ball, who do you like here?
The one I kind of want to bring up is I actually would like Ebron this week.
Okay.
I think Ebron would be a good play. Obviously, Raiders historically with their tight end play. I know that they said that they kind of want to bring in Ebron a little bit more. So I kind of like Eric Ebron this week. So I don't know. We'll see. But that's someone I would kind of shoot for to be that off the radar type guy that might actually play well for Detroit this week.
Yeah, I've been on Ebron a lot this year, and I think you're right. I think this is a good week for him as well. Outside of him, are you down with like Stafford and then the wide receivers? Obviously, Calvin is a dude, but is Golden Tate a dude this week?
Well, obviously, got to play Calvin. Golden Tate, I would kind of stay off of Golden Tate. I think there's someone that's probably a little bit more playable, even if you want to throw out that flyer on DGB with Tennessee over Golden Tate right now. But other than that, I kind of stay away from Stafford too. Again, someone I would probably throw in right now is Mariota over Stafford this week. Because Stafford is what you're gonna get one good game out of every 5 with Stafford. So I don't know. We'll see.
That's pretty fair. I'm okay with Stafford. I don't think he's the best play, but I think he's an okay play. Golden Tate, I kind of like because the Raiders have struggled against slot receivers, and Golden Tate does a lot of his work out of the slot, particularly in a PPR league. I think he's an okay start. And then the last guy I wanted to bring up was Theo Riddick, just in PPR. I think he's generally an okay guy to start in PPR. This week doesn't really change that.
That's fair.
All right. Anyone else on either side of the ball here that you want to talk about?
No.
Okay. I'm going to take Oakland.
I'm gonna roll with you. I need Detroit to lose anyway, so let's go.
All right, let's do it, baby. On to Dallas at Miami. So Romo should be back here.
Mm-hmm.
Are you willing to start him?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Play Romo.
Okay. So Romo over Mariota?
Yeah, I would play Romo over Mariota.
Okay.
I would play Romo over Mariota. I think you're going to see production that we finally wanted out of Des Bryant too. Now that Romo's back.
Yeah, that's something I'm looking forward to pretty highly. The production out of Des. I think Witten as well is going to have a huge week. The Dolphins gave up 202 total yards to the tight end. I mean, between Selleck and Ertz combined last week.
Yep.
So Witten should be able to do some stuff. And I think McFadden on the Dallas side also makes for a nice play just because Romo being back is going to open up that field a little bit more. So
and his job is just so much more secure now.
Oh, completely. Yeah, they cut Christian Michael. If any of you guys missed that, but that guy must have like some serious like issues picking up offenses or whatever because he's an athletic freak and he just no one wants him. Oh well. Any of the other wide receivers on Dallas for you? I don't think I'm on them.
No, I would kind of stay away from it. I know that whole like scare like 2 weeks ago with Cole Beasley having like 2 touchdowns, having like more amount of yardage and touchdowns than he's ever had in his whole career combined. But anyone that kind of hopped on that train was a little silly.
I like how you call that a scare. That's a good word for it.
It's definitely a scare. It's like, oh shit! Like I'm like looking at my phone and Cole Beasley keeps popping up. I'm like, what's going on?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I think we can move on to the Miami side of the ball. Tannehill hasn't really been a weekly starter. Is this a week that you're looking to play him potentially?
Yeah, I could kind of see this being a shootout between Dallas and Miami. Both of them kind of need to win really badly. So this could be the kind of week where you see a lot of yards being thrown.
Okay. I think I'm going to stay away from Tannehill this week, but I understand the liking him a little bit. And then the other guys we need to talk about are Lamar Miller, one, which I think he's a definite start, even with Jay Ajayi taking a little bit of the work. Miller's still getting 82% of the snaps, so that is completely fine. And he's getting work in the passing game as well, so that's good. And then in terms of the wide receivers, you've got Jarvis Landry, you've got Rashard Matthews. Are you down with both of them? Yeah,
I mean, you obviously know I'm a big Rashard Matthews fan.
Of course.
Just a man of consistency, and sometimes you just need consistent. And Jarvis Landry, you do have to play. That's your number one receiver on that team. So he might catch like freak catches like he did last time, just bouncing off people and just catching it for a touchdown.
That was a pretty wild catch.
Yeah.
He's fun to watch though, Landry. I like watching him. But
he's a good player.
But yeah, I think that about does it for the fantasy relevance in this game. Who do you like in this one?
Going with a Dallas win.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think I'm going to go Dallas as well because I want to see Romo and Dez do some
yeah.
stuff.
There's gonna
Plus,
be
if
well,
they, sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, man, that was bad. But if they like keep winning, like they might still have a chance at the playoffs because that division is so bad. It's like they're 2-7, and they could still potentially make it.
Yeah, they're gonna win. They're gonna think that they're gonna have a chance, and they're gonna all just party around Romo in their showers after the game.
Okay, fair enough. Not the words I would have used, but that's well, you're free to make that choice.
No, I'm just using a little future telling right now.
Fair enough, Don. Fair enough. So yeah, we're both on Dallas for that one. Let's move on to the next game on our schedule, which is St. Louis at Baltimore. St. Louis got like weirdly fucked up by the Bears this past week, which was very strange. After that happened, Jeff Fisher decided he is going to bench Nick Foles, start Case Keenum, which is interesting, I guess.
No,
No, not interesting?
no,
Okay, fair enough. I think that's probably the right response. Still knowing that we want to play in the pass game here, right?
no. We don't want to play Case Keenum in the pass game.
Yeah, I think the wide receivers, I mean, Tavon Austin's gotten a little bit of work. It's interesting that Brian Quick finally got some snaps and some looks last week. I'm wondering if this could be a thing where they're going to start using him more down the stretch. So maybe he's worth a speculative ad, but certainly not a start.
Yep.
Other than that, there's Gurley, which you have to play Gurley, right?
No, he's not that good.
Oh, right, of course. I forgot the person who's been screaming to the heavens that Gurley is the future of running backs, and like
if you don't play Gurley, you should not be allowed to walk this earth.
That's pretty harsh, but I'll take it. I think it's harsh, but it's fair,
Like,
and that's what we aim to be.
I want to know that person that decides to sit Gurley this week. Then I'm gonna send him a nasty email, starting with "Hey man."
So we went from you should not be allowed to walk the earth to I'm gonna send them a nasty email. That's I like it. I can deal with
it. I mean, I'm not a murderer, man. I'm not gonna make him not walk this earth. I'm just gonna say, hey, man, like you don't deserve to walk this earth, and that'll be it.
Fair enough. I think that's pretty fair. Well, so if you're out there listening, play Gurley, or Don is going to send you a nasty email saying that you shouldn't be allowed to walk this earth. On the Ravens side of the ball, St. Louis's defense is pretty good, despite the fact that they got wrecked. It's not really a Flacco week, but I think you can play Kamar Aiken pretty easily. Is that?
Yeah.
Are you done with that?
Yeah, you got to play Aiken.
Okay, what about Chris Givens?
Yeah, I kind of like it, especially with these buys. If you just kind of like don't have a receiver and you want to throw someone in there, I think Chris Givens. I mean, being a Rams player and now over there, and he's actually was relevant this week last week and the week before that. I think Chris Givens is kind of like a deep waiver wire target that you can kind of throw in as a flyer and hope for the best, especially going against his old team, maybe.
Yeah, I wasn't really about it until I realized the revenge game narrative, and like because I'm like stupid, I guess. I don't know. I like playing revenge game people because at least it's fun.
Yeah, absolutely. They're always trying to play their best and try to give the other team the middle finger for letting them leave.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know if it's my favorite play of the week, but I can get behind it a little bit. The guy that I think, the two guys on the Ravens that I think are going to go a little under the radar. One, Crockett Gilmore. The Rams haven't been spectacular against the tight end this year ever since Alec Ogletree got hurt. So I like Gilmore this week. He's a guy who he got a touchdown last week. He got, I believe, 4 targets, which is enough for a flyer tight end. And then I think Justin Forsett, despite the fact that the Rams are very good against the run, we saw the Bears use Jeremy Langford pretty creatively in the pass game. If I'm the the Baltimore coaching staff, I'm looking at that and thinking, well, Langford was used like that. We have a dynamic running back as well who can catch passes. Why don't we try and use him creatively in the passing game against them and see if the same thing works? So I think he's a kind of a sneaky guy this week too.
Maybe. I mean, I think you play him because he's probably one of your starting backs anyway, but I don't know. I think that's even more reason that the Rams are going to be like, oh, don't think that you're going to do what Langford did to us last week.
Okay, that's a way to look at it as well. I really like he's not like the safest play by any means, and he hasn't had many huge games this year.
Right.
But I think the potential is there that maybe he busts a long play or that kind of thing. And like you said, you're probably starting him anyway.
Yeah, you're probably starting him anyway.
Yeah. So let's pick this one as well, unless you got anyone else.
Nope, I don't got nobody.
All right, who's the pick here?
St. Louis.
Okay, I'm gonna go Baltimore, just to split it a little bit. But I think that will be a close one.
Just split it a little bit,
Yeah, why not? Why not? We don't want to sweep everything with the little broom.
Just let you know, we skipped Indy and Atlanta.
Did we really?
Yeah, before we hit that Jets Houston.
Oh wow, good call. I made this outline too, and just completely skipped over a game. So anyway,
yeah, I'm a great reader.
Yeah, good job, Don. My reading comprehension skills are not up to yours.
I was the student at school that would tell the teacher in the front, be like, you just missed this part of the lesson plan.
Were you
did you collect everyone's homework that no one did?
Dude, wait a minute, you didn't collect the homework. And everyone's like, shut up, Don, asshole.
Just get thrown into a locker when I walk out.
That's what I'm going to do after this podcast. I'm going to throw you into a locker for pointing out that I missed a game. So anyway, we're going to go, before I throw Don into a locker, we're going to go back to Indy at Atlanta, which Atlanta's a big favorite in this one. And I think the big question is, who do we trust in this Indy pass game with Andrew Luck out? Who do you think is still relevant here, Don?
Well, I was trying to look at who Hasselbeck really looked at. I think you got to play Dante Moncrief, right? Other than that, I kind of think you could throw a flyer on actually Kobe Fleener.
Dude, Hasselbeck did love Fleener.
Because Fleener had actually a really nice, I think it was week 3 against Jacksonville. So I think that's actually someone, if you're playing the tight end roulette, that you can kind of go to Kobe Fleener and be okay with him, because I think Hasselbeck likes Fleener.
Yeah, I agree. Hasselbeck does like him. One caution to that would be that Dwayne Allen was out that week, that Kobe Fleener had a big week as well. Right. But I do think Fleener's a viable play in tight end roulette. I think that's fair. In terms of the wide receivers, I'm less big on Moncrief. He's had 2 down weeks recently, and to be honest, the red zone targets were really what was keeping him afloat before that. I think T.Y. Hilton is probably a solid play though. And Moncrief, you may be forced to play Moncrief. It's not the worst play you could make, because the Titans secondary isn't ridiculously, or sorry, not Titans, Atlanta secondary. I don't know why it's the Titans. Isn't ridiculously good, but it's not my favorite play. In terms of the run game, are you down with the Gore?
Yeah, I again, that's just another someone that if you have Gore, unless you really have a ridiculous backfield, you're probably playing Gore anyway. But I'm good with Gore. Gore's been pretty solid and consistent, and Don likes consistent, so play Gore.
Don likes consistent. We should put that on a T-shirt.
I'd wear it.
Yeah, I'd probably wear that too. I don't know if anyone else would.
I'd wear it consistently.
Right. On that note, on to Atlanta. Matt Ryan hasn't been a stud this year, but I think he's still play against this relatively weak Colts defense.
Yeah.
Devontae Freeman, obviously you're playing. Julio is probably going to get matched up against Vontae Davis, but you're still going to play him, right?
Yeah, but I mean, Vontae Davis, again, he only plays what was it, against the wide receiver one. So even if Julio it went into the slot or whatever else, Vontae Davis normally doesn't cover that. So that means that Julio still has has plays that he won't be covered by Vontae Davis. And Julio Jones, even with Vontae Davis, is still going to get catches anyway because he's Julio Jones. So you definitely play Julio and, probably bank a pretty good week out of him.
Yeah, I think that's dead on. Tell me what you think about this. Leonard Hankerson is going to be back this week with the idea that the Colts are going to be concentrating their coverage on Julio. I think this might be a week that you could get a decent performance out of Hankerson.
Yeah, I mean, this would be the game that you would look to do it against that Colts defense. Julio obviously being really the only dominant pass catcher on that receiving core. It's probably going to give Leonard Hankerson a lot of wiggle room to get those passes and be a sneaky player for this week, especially with those buys again that we're looking at. You got a lot of wide receivers that are out between Bryant, Brown, Odell, Cooks, Snead. So the Leonard Hankerson probably wouldn't be a bad play.
Yeah, definitely. I think also if like Hankerson's supposed to be back, if he doesn't go, I might be down with Tammy just because those targets have to go somewhere, but that's only if Leonard Hankerson doesn't go.
Yeah.
Anyone else in this game, Dom?
No, I think we covered everyone that we needed to.
All right, I'm taking Atlanta.
I will take, I'll go Indianapolis. And by the way, would you play Hasselbeck if you had a quarterback on the bye? Or would you play Mariota over him?
I would play Mariota over him. I think there's some other guys I would play over him as well. I'm trying to look through off the top of my head. I would probably play Stafford over him.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm
So you probably wouldn't play Hasselbeck.
No, I don't think it's the worst start you could make, but I don't think it's really necessary.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it is depending on your league. So if it's necessary, yeah, sure. All right. So wait, you said you were taking Indy on that one?
Yeah, taking Indy.
Okay, I like it. Taking the upset. All right, Jets at Texans. This one, when I start my research each week, I normally just look at the Vegas lines to get an idea of where this is going to go. They don't really have a Vegas line for this one yet because we're not sure who's going to start at quarterback, whether it's Hoyer or TJ Yates, which TJ Yates looked pretty decent. I think either way, is there anyone that you're playing besides Hopkins on the Texans?
No.
Okay. Yeah, and I mean, with Hopkins is going to have that matchup against Revis, which is not a good matchup. Yeah. He's still going to get fed targets. He's still a fine play. You shouldn't be benching DeAndre Hopkins, but he is going to be up against Revis. So to the Jets side of the ball, they're normally pretty easy to predict from a fantasy perspective too. Is it a Fitz week for you or? Like, for example, Fitz or Hasselbeck?
Ooh. I don't know. I think Fitz is probably Fitz is probably your Fitz has been pretty consistent, and Dom likes consistent,
Right, of course.
No, I'd probably still go Fitz, but I think, I don't know, Hasselbeck, when he was playing the 2 games that he played, he actually played pretty well. But I would still go Fitz Cummings on that.
God, I completely forgot about that nickname.
Fitz earns to get that spot, so I'll give it to him.
All right, cool. And then the rest of the Jets, I mean, you play Ivory, you play Marshall, you play Decker, right? Is there anything outside of that?
Stephen Ridley, bro.
Oh, right, of course. Stephen Ridley. Gotta give him a start. That's not true. You don't have to give him a start, nor should you give him a start. So I think this one's pretty easy. I'm going to take the Jets.
Yeah, the Jets definitely.
All right, wonderful. Let's try and not skip any more matchups and move on to Green Bay at Minnesota. So this is what I need to ask you. What is up with the Green Bay offense here?
I'll tell you what, we definitely miss Jordy a lot.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing, too, is a lot of teams are catching up on it. To be honest, our receivers are obviously not what they were with Jordy in the lineup. I love James Jones, and fuck you, Vinny. But James Jones is obviously not a Jordy Nelson. And he had a good few bust-out weeks because I think everyone was kind of sleeping on James Jones at the time, didn't think he could do what he wanted to. And that's where Rodgers was kind of leaning, and now they kind of picked up on that. So he's not really making that separation to open up that offense like Jordy would. So I think that's a big issue. Eddie Lacy's fat, and on top of him being fat, they said his ankle hurts. So not having that rush game either is something that we've kind of been dependent on the past two seasons ahead of time. So it's been very one dimensional. Rodgers isn't on top of his game. I actually hope McCarthy kind of comes back to being the play caller, because I just don't even like the play calling going on. So I don't know. It's the receivers are beat up. Montgomery was beat up already. They don't have Corliss, which we actually did lean on Corliss a lot once Finley was gone out of that offense. And Richard Rodgers is just kind of spotty. He's inconsistent. There's games where he plays well and they're looking at him a lot. Sometimes he's not. So there's just no consistency. There's no separation. Very one dimensional. Rodgers is not being Rodgers. The play calling's off. I think it's just a whole lot. That's what I think the issue is with the offense right now.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I completely agree with the Jordy thing. That's like having Jordy as like that guy who can go over the top and beat the defense is like the same thing as just having like an elite 3-point shooter in the NBA. Right. It's like even if he's not contributing in the box score, you always have to account for him at all times, or else he's gonna make you regret it.
In another sense. So, and I think it was I was listening to ESPN radio this morning, and they were just talking about like kind of how underappreciated Jordy was. Like everyone knew Jordy was Jordy, but like in the sense where like it was just always it's Rodgers, and it still is. Rodgers is unbelievable, but in another sense, like Jordy actually did pick up so much of this slack that we're just kind of really starting to fully understand.
Yeah, absolutely. So with that being said, in fantasy terms, who do you trust on the Packers this week?
That's tough. I mean, I've never really had to like think of that. Like and think like I don't in the sense that I don't know. Like I'd love to say Cobb, but like Cobb's not even been like that solid guy that you kind of look for. It's really tough. I think you still play like I think Adams you should still play if you have Adams. Cobb, I think you should still have Cobb in there. James Jones, I'm kind of weaning off of right now. I have to plan because of the bye weeks, but after that, after this week, I think this is the week that I really figure out what's going on, if James Jones is still relevant or not. And then I think you play Stark still. I think Starks is still someone that they're going to still run the ball out with. I don't know what the deal is with Eddie Lacy and him being fat. So,
yeah, no, I agree with you. I think Starks is still a play. Hopefully they kind of get that run game on track this week, and if not, he's still used in the pass game.
Yeah.
Devontae Adams got 21 targets this past week. So, like, you can't really sit a guy getting that many targets, even if he only caught 10 of them for 79 yards.
Right.
Cobb is an interesting one. I think you're probably playing him, but, maybe you have the depth to sit him. So
just don't have high hopes for him. But, I mean, it could pay off, but you just don't know right now.
Yeah, absolutely. They're a tough offense to diagnose right now. So then on the Minnesota side, AP and Diggs, is that it?
Yeah, I would probably say so. If you're throwing like a Wallace in there, you're kind of getting risky because he's just inconsistent overall. But you definitely play Diggs. AP, my God, like I have AP and I'm just gonna cry and like I'm gonna like jump up and then like sit down and cry because I'm watching him run all over Green Bay. but like I have him, so like I'm cheering for him, but I can't. It's gonna be a really horrible week for me.
Yeah, that late game touchdown last week was what put you over the top against Rodgers, right?
That matchup between me and Rodgers was actually pretty ridiculous. Like
it was
like I had Langford and AP have these crazy touchdowns. He had West and Antonio Brown just like go all over the place too. It was just like really weird. But that I was watching that run and I was just sitting there and like I didn't like even look at my phone because I figured that like it would start blowing up with between our chat with me, you and Rodgers Shrek.
Yeah.
I was like, oh God, I just ran for 80 yards and a touchdown with AP there. So it's pretty nice. But I mean, expect a really good week from him, obviously, against a really bad Green Bay defense. I'm kind of really off the Dom Capers train too, so he can kind of suck it. But AP is going to have a nice week, and probably Diggs too, to be honest.
Yeah, I think those are the two guys there. Other than that, you don't really have to do much. Yep. Who do you got here picking it?
I got to go Green Bay.
Okay. I'm gonna go. You know what? I'm gonna show a sign of solidarity with you guys and go Green Bay as well. It's tempting.
Thanks, thanks, man.
Minnesota is actually a 1 point favorite right now, which is
Yeah,
pretty
well,
wild.
they deserve that 1 point favorite. They're leading the division. They only have two losses.
Yeah, yeah, pretty crazy.
They're like a very silent good team this year.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll see what happens. It should be an interesting game, though.
Yeah,
On to Tampa Bay at Philadelphia. The big story coming into this one is that Mark Sanchez is most likely going to be the starting quarterback.
yeah.
Um, I'm down with streaming him. Are you?
I am. I ended up picking up Sanchez last year in one league once Foles went down, and he was actually a very playable quarterback for the year in that Chip Kelly offense. He's been in this offense already. He's kind of comfortable in it. I don't think he's no better, no worse than Bradford in this offense right now. So he's very streamable, especially against the Tampa Bay defense. This would be a nice week to play him.
Yeah, absolutely. So if we like Sanchez, we must like some of his targets, I think. But my issue is that I don't know which targets to pick. It feels like a different one every week. We know he had some chemistry with J-Matt last year, but I don't know if I trust that to keep going. Which of the Philly pass targets are you looking at?
I would probably play J Matt, definitely.
Okay.
I think it's gonna be like very Philly-ish, where it's like production is like spread.
Right.
I think like both their tight ends are gonna get like maybe like 50 yards each, which is nice production. I think Jordan Matthews' value kind of goes up though with that having that chemistry from last year.
Okay, that's fair. I think if I was going to play any of them, Jordan Matthews would be the guy. We saw Selleck have a big week last week. I wouldn't trust that. We saw Ertz get 10 targets, which is promising.
Yeah,
Still don't know if I want to play Ertz. I think I'd rather play a guy like Crockett Gilmore over Ertz. But yeah, it's tough. What about the run game? I think I'm down with DeMarco at this point, and that's about it.
yeah, and Ryan Matthews is out this week, right? Because of the concussion.
Oh, is he? I actually didn't even know.
I
But
know he went out with a concussion. I actually never even looked up if what his he's been held out of practice. So
held out of practice.
that,
Okay, so yeah,
yeah,
that makes DeMarco a very, very good option
even
then.
yeah, especially against this is the week you should feel good about playing DeMarco Murray.
Yeah, yeah, I think you're right on that. So then on the Tampa Bay side of the ball, I feel like the two guys that are playable from week to week are Mike Evans and Doug Martin. Do you have anything else there?
No, I don't have anything else. I know a lot of people have been streaming James Winston every once in a while. I wouldn't do that this week with Philly defense being pretty good, actually.
Yeah, I don't think this is the week either.
No. Stream Hasselbeck before you do that.
Yeah, I think you're actually right on that one. That's a good call there.
Yeah.
So then let's pick this one. You know what? I'm going to pick the upset. I'm going to go Tampa Bay.
All right, I'm not. I'm gonna go with Philly.
Okay. I feel like Philly, I don't know. It's weird. I don't know what to think about them. Anyway, let's move on to the next game. We've got Denver.
Walsh is catching such weird vibes.
Yeah, very, very super weird vibes, Braj. But Denver at Chicago. I wrote in our outline, I have very little feel for this game. And I honestly don't know what to expect because Denver, we thought, I mean, their defense is great, but they got wrecked by Kansas City. Peyton Manning is out. So we've got Brock Osweiler in there. The Denver run game has been weird all year. Despite the good matchup against Chicago's D, I think the only one I really want to play on Denver is Demarius.
Yeah, I mean, what's the deal with Emmanuel Sanders? Is he?
He's not looking like he's going to play either, I don't think.
I don't know. It's almost Denver's almost very. I think Denver's almost following suit with like Green Bay right now. Like they were undefeated, now they're kind of falling apart completely. You don't even know who to play on their offense when they usually have such a dynamic offense. It's kind of very similar at the moment. I don't know. Yeah, obviously you play Demaryius Thomas, you have to. And I think Osweiler is good enough to get the ball to Demaryius Thomas. Other than that, you just don't really have the certainty of like who you can play. So I would kind of stay away from everyone else at this moment anyway.
Okay, I think that's fair. There's not much more to say there. On the Chicago side of the ball, I know you hate Jay Cutler, but he's had 17 plus in every single matchup since he came back from injury. I think it's about time that we look at him as maybe an every week starter.
Sorry, I wasn't paying attention because you were talking about Jay Cutler.
All right, that's fine. That's completely fine. I'm going to say this is a bad matchup, but Cutler isn't the worst quarterback that you could start, and I'd probably rather start him than Matt Hasselbeck.
Stream Hasselbeck.
Okay, fair enough, Don.
I'm sorry to listeners for my bias against Jay Cutler.
It's funny because we've got 5 people, and like I think there's a bit of a bias with all of us on Jay Cutler because you, Shrek, and Rogers just like vehemently hate him, and me and Vinny for some reason just love him. So
I think in another sense, you guys just like love that we hate them. We hate him so bad that you're just like, yeah, smoking Jay, man.
Yeah, I think there's definitely some sort of like ironic element to our love for Jay Cutler. But yeah, it's either way. I don't think you're going to get biased Cutler advice from any of us. But so let's move on to the rest of the Bears. We don't know Forte's status. He hasn't practiced yet. If he doesn't go, I'm very down with Jeremy Langford again this week.
I'm so down on Langford. Thank you, Vinny, for giving me him for nothing.
Yeah, what did he give you for again?
He gave me Martellus. I gave him Martellus Bennett.
Okay. I mean, I guess I get it. And that was before this past week. So, I don't know. It's an interesting trade. We'll see what happens because Forte's going to be back.
No, I mean, listen, I get the value is only short term, but he probably could have swindled more out of me if he kept pushing for more.
That's true. If Forte does end up coming back, I don't know if I'm comfortable playing either of them, which kind of sucks, but
that would be that would put me in a very bad predicament, and I would sit there and tinker for a while. If Forte was coming back, I would actually I'd probably play Forte, but really feel bad about it.
Yeah, it's one of those situations where like he could just like pull like an I'm active but not really going to play too much. And John Fox is a complete dick about injury status too, so we probably just won't know until game time and possibly after. But keep an eye on Matt Forte if you own him or Jeremy Langford this week.
Yeah.
The Bears passing game, Alshon, it's not a great matchup for him. He's also dealing with an injury. He played only about 50% of the snaps last week. What do you think about Alshon?
I mean, it's tough. With the injury, he had a bad week last week. And we got to keep Talib coming back too.
Mm-hmm.
I'd probably still roll Alshon though, just because he's your main guy. I'd still probably roll Alshon, but again, that's something you don't feel good about. But you got to hope for upside on Alshon.
Yeah, he's the kind of guy who like even with a bad matchup could still go for 150 yards. You just don't really know. So it's a weird predicament. But yeah, Martellus Bennett, I think I could be down with because Denver, if there's been one way to attack him in the pass game this year, it has been the tight end.
Yeah.
So I could do Martellus.
I don't hate it.
All right, let's pick this one. Who do you got?
I need Denver to win. So Denver.
I'm going to take Chicago. Let's go Smoking Jay.
Fuck Smoking Jay. If I ever saw Jay Cutler, I would look at him and rip that cigarette out of his mouth, throw it on the ground, step on it, and spit on his face.
That's intense, but all right. I think if I saw him, I would probably not talk to him because I've heard he's a dick to fans, but that's okay.
Can't be a dick to me if I'm a dick to him first.
He could still be a dick to you, but you would probably just have the upper hand there. Either way, let's move on to Cincinnati at Arizona. Interesting matchup. Arizona's a pretty big favorite. Since he also hasn't really looked good the past couple of weeks. I mean, they just lost to Houston. They had a couple tight ones before that. The two guys who I'm still very down with are Gio Bernard and AJ Green. What are your thoughts on them?
I'm still very down with that too. Gio is someone I've kind of liked from the beginning of the season. I think he really earned his spot the year before or 2 years before now. And he's just been like that solid again, consistent. They're more consistent back. He's more of a threat in the pass game. So that's someone that I would rather play. And then AJ Green, he's someone that's a must start every week, no matter what the matchup is, because he's your superstar. So you kind of have to play him.
Yeah, I wouldn't be too afraid of Pat Peterson too, because Peterson's very good, but he's historically been better against smaller wide receivers, and he's
Right.
struggled a little bit more with the big-bodied guys. So don't be too scared of that. Still keep AJ Green in there. The other two guys on that offense, Tyler Eifert, who had an absolutely terrible game this past week, dropped 3 passes, could have had a very good game, but just didn't. And then Marvin Jones, I think might be worth a look. I don't know. What are your thoughts on these guys?
Eifert, I might look elsewhere on a tight end roulette. Eifert also is very touchdown dependent. But again, you gotta first hope that Cincinnati's in the red zone, especially against this Arizona team. This Arizona team's kind of steamrolling right now, especially the way Cincinnati's digressing. I would kind of stay away from Eifert, and I'd kind of stay away from Jones too. I kind of really would kind of stick with our basic guys with this tough Arizona team. I'd kind of stick to only Gio and AJ Green.
Okay, I think that's fair. I think a lot of Eifert owners might not have a better place to go, but Arizona has been very good against the tight end, so I would keep my expectations low there. And yeah, Jones is a very deep play, basically, at this point. Like, he's not much more than that.
Right.
So on the Arizona side of the ball, I really like Carson this week. I think he's going to throw for a ton of yardage. But I don't know, other than Larry Fitzgerald, which I think is an obvious play, I don't know where it's going to go because both John Brown and Michael Floyd have hamstring injuries. They've both been held out of practice.
If Floyd I think if Floyd is suits up and is all right, I think you play Floyd too. He's been on a hot streak.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. If one or both of them doesn't go, do you think Jerron Brown is like a guy that is worth a pickup maybe?
Maybe, but I mean, I think there's other options you can go from different matchups, like going all the way back to our DGB with Tennessee that you could probably plug in.
Right. Okay. I think that's fair. I think the main point is that Carson's the guy you want to own in the pass game this week. In the run game, you've got Chris Johnson still getting the bulk of carries, but Andre Ellington having a very good week and actually almost getting himself up to 40% of snaps. So that's nice to see. His stat percentage has climbed each of the past 3 weeks. I'm pretty down with both of them this week. What do you think?
Yeah, Chris Johnson is a play, and Ellington, I mean, obviously being someone that was their starting running back, I think they want to really get him back into that role and give Chris Johnson also, time off the field as well. Keep fresh legs. That's how you win games, fresh legs. So
yeah, I mean they're at the point where they're starting to think about the playoffs and what they're going to do there. So I think that's dead on. Give all of them a little playing time and keep those fresh legs.
That's right.
Who are you picking here?
I'm gonna go with Arizona. I think Cincinnati can't beat them.
Yeah, I agree. Arizona at home is very tough, and I'm going to take the Cardinals. San Francisco at Seattle. This is a pretty easy one. No Niners, right?
No Niners.
Okay. Even if Carlos Hyde plays?
No. Yeah, no.
All right. I'm right there with you. On the Seattle side of the ball, Marshawn's an easy start. I think if you've been rolling with Jimmy Graham, you're probably going to keep rolling with him. Is Russell Wilson a quarterback you're looking at this week?
Yeah. Against San Francisco, always a big rivalry. Russell Wilson always kind of shows up and plays against San Francisco. So I think this would be a good week to see some production out of him.
Okay, that's pretty fair. I think I can get behind that. And then in terms of the Seattle wide receivers, Baldwin just had a big week. He has an injury. He missed practice today. Forget the exact specific injury. So I guess keep an eye on him. But is there anyone you want to mess around with there?
No.
Okay. Let's pick this one then. I'm going to take Seattle.
Yeah, there's no way you can take San Francisco. Gotta go Seattle. Sweep them.
Yeah. I think they're like a 12.5-point favorite right now, which is obviously the biggest line of the week and might be the biggest line of the season.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're going past that. On to the night games. We'll get Kansas City at San Diego. On the Kansas City side of the ball, Charkandrick West looked amazing in what was supposed to be a very bad matchup. He's a must start at this point, right?
Yeah, he after I saw that first he started off the game actually really hot right away with that touchdown and everything. Against the Denver defense that everyone's been talking about. Charkandrick West is a very nice play this week against a very bad rush defense of San Diego.
Yeah, absolutely. They have one of the worst rush defenses, so that's a no-brainer. What about the rest of the Chiefs, the Kelseys, the Macklins, the Alex Smiths of the world?
Yeah, I think you play them. Again, San Diego's defense is not very good, and you can kind of expect production out of the past game out of Kansas City, which is you don't always see. But this is going to be divisional game going against Phillip. You might see a little bit of a shootout this week.
Fair enough. I think that's an accurate look at it. I just realized as we were talking about it, I don't know whether Jason Verrett is supposed to play this week, and I think that makes a big difference in Macklin's matchup. So I'm searching it right now. Doesn't say on RotoWorld. So keep an eye on that if you have Macklin and maybe you've got some other options that you're weighing him against. If Jason Verrett plays, that makes his matchup a lot harder. If he doesn't play, you're probably good to go. So then San Diego side of the ball, Phillip has lost a lot of his targets, but he's probably still a good start here, right?
Good. Always got to bolt up with Phillip, man.
So then
who are you going to play, Smokin' Jay?
Potentially, maybe. Yeah. No, I'd rather play Phillip than Smokin' Jay this week for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So he's got Stevie Johnson there. He's got Dontrell Inman there. He's got is Gates going to play? Is that Gates is going to play, right?
I believe Gates is playing.
Okay. For some reason let me just double check, but he's got, so of those weapons, who are you down with?
So Gates is limited practice. Yeah, he's fine. He's gonna play.
Yeah, he'll be okay.
I'm cool with Gates this week. Obviously with not having Keenan Allen now and oh my God,
Malcolm Floyd.
Thank you, sir. Having those two guys out, it's gonna be. I think it's a Stevie Johnson, Antonio Gates show because Phillip's always gonna sling. So. Stevie Johnson, Gates. I'm not huge on Inman. I think he's kind of like what Eddie Royal was when he was there and all that. I don't think you really get much production in Inman, but I think Woodhead's going to be a fun play too. I think there's going to be a lot of passing to Woodhead, and I think that's the three main guys that he's really going to be going for. And I think actually it's going to be a lot of yards that's going to be thrown out for this game as well. So I think there's going to be a lot of good production actually.
Yeah, I'm right with you. I think I'm a little bit higher on Inman than you are. I kind of like him just as a player. So I'm down with the Inman as one of those, the DGB territory. We keep going back to that. I think Inman's in that same sort of territory as a guy that you could throw in there. Woodhead's a great play. Stevie's a great play. Gates is a great play. Would you, if you're desperate at tight ends, would you be willing to give Ladarius Green a shot this week, even with Gates back? Excuse me.
No, I don't know how desperate you are. I would probably stay away from Ladarius Green still.
That's a fair take. I think I would as well. So let's go ahead and pick this one. I'm going to take the Chiefs.
Got to bolt up, man.
Of course, we're bolting up over there. So on to our last game. We have the Monday night game, Buffalo at New England. Second time they've played this year. First time was very high scoring. New England went way up, and Buffalo then came back sort of with Ty God doing some serious garbage time work. Are you down with Ty God this week?
Yeah.
Yes? Okay.
Yeah, I like Tyrod. I think it's going to be obviously a divisional matchup. I mean, obviously last time it was more of a garbage time play, but I think they're really starting to like Rex Ryan, and I think they're going to be riled up for this game. So I think there's going to be a lot of craftiness. So I think Tyrod Taylor's going to be a good play because he's a crafty player.
Okay, that's fair. I think Tyrod Taylor provides a high floor And he definitely provides a high ceiling too. They're just I don't know. For some reason, I'm not as high on him this week as I normally feel like I am. But he's still an okay play. He's still fine. Shady's been great the past 2 weeks. I think you're playing him.
Mhm.
And then in the past game for Buffalo, is there anyone that you really want to look at in particular?
No, that's kind of tricky. What do you think about Clay this week against Patriots?
I'm not really about it. He's just so inconsistent, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I've tried to predict which weeks are going to be Clay weeks, and I've gotten like one of them right so far this year. So I'm not about it.
Well, maybe in that sense, it's for everyone else. You should probably look at Clay since Walter's down on him.
That's right. That's very true. Just I'll try to do my best based on statistics and whatever else, and whatever I say, just do the opposite.
So what about
yeah.
You know what? What about Mr. Sammy Watkins?
I'm not about it. Again, I feel like each week with this Buffalo Bills offense, there's someone who's going to be a fantasy relevant guy in the pass game, and I'm not trying to figure out who it is. So
I think Sammy Watkins has a good game this week.
Okay, that's fair. That's I don't have any reason. He very well could. It's just one of those things where it's each week it feels like it's a little difficult to predict, but I think that's a decent call. New England side of the ball, Brady is a very obvious play. There's why would you sit him ever? And then I think Blunt's a definite for me. Gronk's a definite.
And then obviously you got to play Amendola.
Yeah, absolutely.
Gonna pick up that slack.
Yeah, it's looking so. I know Brady said they were going to get Keyshawn, I don't know how you pronounce it, but whatever it is, Keyshawn Martin involved in the pass game a little bit more. I don't know if I really buy it.
No. Amendola is like the same exact type of player that Edelman is. And Amendola was who they reached out for once that year that they lost Welker. They wanted someone to kind of replace that Welker, and that's who they went to. So I think Amendola is going to just slide right in.
Yeah, and to go along with that, the Bills' two outside corners, Stephon Gilmore and Ronald Darby, have been very good this year. Their slot corners, not as much. So Amendola is going to be making his living in that slot. He'll probably be able to get open and do some good things. So he's a nice play this week. I'm probably going to have a lot of Amendola in DFS. But anyone else we got to talk about here? I don't think it's worth talking about White and Bolden, right?
No, you don't go for them yet. You got to still see what – I mean, you never know with Belichick and his running backs, but Blunt is the hot hand, and you don't know what else is going to be going on with those other two guys yet.
All right. I like it. So, let's pick this one. I'm going to take New England.
I'm going to go with a very crafty Buffalo Bills.
Ooh, all right. Crafty.
Leaves the Panthers as the only undefeated team after this week.
That would be pretty cool, pretty interesting. The NFL's been fun this year, so that would be a nice little cherry on top. Panthers are the last undefeated team. So yeah, you got anything else for our listeners this week, Don?
No, just consistent is what works.
Yeah, Don likes consistent. Just remember that.
And fuck Jay Cutler.
You gotta end up.
Yeah, that's a great end note. Just end it now. Just don't even say goodbye to the listeners. Just
no. I'm gonna say something because that would be a mean-spirited way to go out. And we're not mean-spirited here. Let's talk fantasy football. We're extremely mean-spirited a lot of the time. But anyway, for Don, I am Nick Walsh. This has been Let's Talk Fantasy Football, and we will talk to you guys next week. Good luck with Week 11.